incompetence. And I know that you are, because unconscious incompetence, it takes place at all different levels. When I was broke, I had a state of unconscious incompetence. And that state of unconscious incompetence is typically where your comfort zone is. It's where I was comfortable. See, all the things that you have in your life right now is your comfort zone. The house that you live in, the car that you drive, the places that you go, the menus that you eat from, and the friends that you associate with, all of those things are right there within your reach. They're in your comfort zone. And how many of you right now are not satisfied with the things that are in your comfort zone? It's not necessarily about having the Lamborghini or the Rolls Royce or the most expensive cars. It's about challenging yourself to say, there's a picture of what I thought life was actually going to be like, and I want to move towards that picture. And what I learned is this, is that all of the things that were inside that picture of what I thought life could be like, and where I actually got my picture, I never forget. I was actually living in Ponce de Leon Projects, Tampa, Florida, is where I was. And at nighttime, and it was about 11 o'clock at night. If you guys remember, there was a time that television actually went off. It was around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, but 11 o'clock at night, there was a show that used to come on called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous by Robin Leach. And here's this little kid here living in Ponce de Leon Projects, thinking that I was born to live in the projects, thinking that that's how life was designed for me, and that that's my destiny. Why I never saw anybody leave the projects and do well. I didn't know I was unconsciously incompetent. I didn't know what I didn't know. But I never forget, watching that television program. Why? Because I wanted something to occupy my mind, so I would watch television. Why? There was no books in our house. We didn't have encyclopedias like everybody else did. We didn't have audios and stuff like that. So I found a way to actually occupy my mind through the television. And after my favorite TV show would actually go on, here comes Robin Leach talking about champagne wishes and caviar dreams, and I'm watching these people in these limousines and Rolls Royces, and I'm watching these people with the furs, and these people who've got the jewelry on, the watches and necklaces and whatever it was, and the nice perfect hair and the nice perfect suits, and going to places and going to balls and whatever it was, and I had no idea where they were. I just knew that they looked like they were so appetizing, it made me feel like I want to experience it. I want to experience. Call it materialistic, you can call it whatever it is that you want, but I knew that these people had a better life and a better experience of how they actually went through life. They had a better packaging than I had, and I wanted that packaging. And I would watch it until television went off, until that program went off, and next thing you know, TV's off, and I said to myself, I want to be that. And that's where that little vision of a dream was actually born. See, that's where my transformation, the seed of transformation started right there. Why? Because I was able to visualize something, and everything that I saw was way outside of my comfort zone. It's the same thing for you. Right now, some of you right now are dealing with a bunch of issues, and we're not just going to talk about the issues. We're going to actually talk about the promised land. But some of you right now are certain places in your life, whether it's in your physical body. Maybe some of you right now are not where you want to be physically. You're not losing the weight that you want to be, or you look yourself in the mirror and you see something that you don't like, or whatever that may be, your eating habits, or whatever it is, and you're not happy with where you are. And what you've got to do is you've got to find your own lifestyles of the rich and famous, and you've got to put those visualizations in there so that you can see where you're going to have to become uncomfortable. Because when you see the vision of who it is that you are, just like I did. And I never forget, I was walking around in this house here, right where I'm at. This is my corporate office here. It's one of the houses that I own. And we made it into a corporate office. But when I lived here in this house, I'll never forget walking in front of the mirror. I was going to take a shower, and the next thing you know, I did a double take, looked to the left, and I'm like, who is that? And what is he hiding in that stomach? And here I was, I had been carrying that stomach around with me for so long. Everywhere I went, that stomach was with me. I took it wherever it is that I went. And for some reason, I didn't even notice it. Next thing you know, I was wearing 32 inch pants, and the next thing you know, I'm at 33s, then I'm at 34s, then I'm at 36s. The next thing you know, I'm buying 38s, and I didn't even recognize that I went from 32 all the way to size 38 pants. So that's one of the first areas of change and transformation that we're going to talk about is your body, your physical. Then we're going to talk about your being. Where are you right now spiritually? Where are you with your spiritual? How connected are you? Do you understand who you are? Do you understand where you are? Do you understand why you are? Do you understand why you were even created, why you were designed? And one of the things I found out is this here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to get so deep into it, but we will get there when I talk to you about what we're going to do and how we have a process of taking people through transformation and so that they understand who it is that they are. Because here's one of the things that I can talk to you about right now is that most of you have no freaking clue who you are. And I'm not preaching that because I didn't have a clue as to who I was either. Most of you right now, you buy some technology, you buy these nice fancy cameras, you buy these phones, the cars, or whatever it is, and sometimes you don't know how to operate it. And I'll never forget, I was sitting over there at the Apple store because my phone went out on me, and it just completely went bonkers. And when I went to the Apple store and I took my phone there, they made me wait there in the lobby. And in the lobby where I was, they have educational courses where they teach people all of the benefits of these of the iPhone. And I looked there and I couldn't even imagine that would be such a crowd there of people who would sit there and learn all of the details and the benefits and features of an iPhone. Why am I talking about that? Because many of you have gone on YouTube and you found out a little bit more about how to use your phone or how to use this technology and all of this stuff that you have. But there's a piece of technology that's been created, and I can tell you this, I didn't understand it until recently. It is the most advanced piece of technology that's ever been created. Elon Musk has created some technology. He's created, the robots, and he's created Neuralink, and he's created all of this thing. And NVIDIA has created some microchips and some artificial intelligence that comes nowhere close to the most advanced piece of technology that's ever been here on Earth, and that is called the human body and the human body. And we take it for granted. And all I thought this was, I just thought this was my skin color, and I just thought this was skin to contain all my flesh, and to contain the blood that was there. And that's what I thought the purpose of this body was, and that's what I thought the purpose of this mind was. It just only to direct what was going on in this body, and that's all that I was taught, because I was unconscious and I had no clue as to how advanced this technology was. Elon Musk, hundreds of billions of dollars. And one of the things that he can't do is he can't replicate the human body. When you sit and you understand, and I start to do some study of the human body and the human mind and who we are and how we're actually made, how we were actually designed, and the technology that's in us that we never even considered to be technology. And that was when I started to be able to start breaking free as well. That was when I say, hey, listen, you know what? This body has the opportunity to lose weight. And so I made a decision to lose weight, and I did. When I start to understand and get connected more spiritually, what I mean by more spiritually, start to understand what I call the divine truth. And I'm not here to get religious, and I'm not here to preach to you. I don't care what it is that you believe. You know what? I know for a fact, regardless of what your spiritual religious beliefs are, none of that stuff matters to me. Every single person who's listening right now can actually take that quantum leap, and you can get to the next level regardless of what it is that you believe on a spiritual basis. But I can tell you this, there is some of the garbage and some of the bullshit that you don't actually have to let go. Yes, I said bullshit. And I can tell you right now, if the word bullshit is actually going to stop you from quantum leaping, you can exit the chat right now. I hope little words like that don't get into the way of your quantum leap and your transformation. But that's where I was. I was in that funk and didn't even understand that I was in that funk. But when I started to understand, that's when I became free. That was when I started to understand what I could do and the powers that I actually had that we're going to actually teach and train each and every one of you to take that journey with us. And I'm going to show you how to unleash it. And I'm going to give you examples and show you the timeline of where I was right down in the murk, in the mire, down there in the rough stuff, $250,000 in debt, 45 days away from foreclosure, just had my car repossessed, and how we actually quantum leap from there, and we've made several quantum leaps in our life. And the most important thing that I want to share with you right now is that there's another one that's actually taking place right now as I speak. And most of you have a chance to actually learn from people after they created their quantum leap, and after they've done it 10 years, and maybe they only do one, or maybe they only do two, but I'm telling you right now, I've had multiple quantum leaps, and I'm right now in the process of creating another one, and I decided to say, I am actually going to bring some other people with me. Over 100 plus people right now who I've actually had, who witnessed my quantum leap, and what rubbed off from them is many of those people became, over 100 plus people, they became millionaires. They joined the millionaire circle. Many of those people actually not only went for millionaire, but they went to $1 million per month. And they're out there actually teaching the exact same thing that I taught them. The information that was brought to me as well. As I told you, none of this information is new. It's the same information that you already know, but most people, they don't understand themselves. See, there's a manual that came with you. There is an instruction manual that came with this piece of technology that you have. And 99% of you have never, ever actually looked in the right place. You've never looked in the right place for how to operate this mind right here, this body right here, how to put it all together, combine it for a quantum leap so that you actually can experience the 4 M's, the money, the mindset, the mentorship, and the millionaire circle. I did it. Not only did I did it, I taught it. And to go from the spiritual as well as I talked about how is your being, the spiritual connection, and then talk to you about your balance, how is your family. Everybody's not on this Zoom right here just because they want to make $1 million. Some of you are on this Zoom right here because your family's all screwed up. True. Some of you right now don't have the connection with your children. Some of you don't have the connection with your siblings. Some of you don't have a connection with your mother or with your father. And you're thinking that, you know what, it's their fault, it's my fault, and whatever it is. But most of it is bullshit, is the reason why you're disconnected from it. It's the reason why you're disconnected, and the majority of it is bullshit. And what I can tell you right now is there's a methodology of how you can actually communicate and relate so that actually you can start mending those fences and start having a complete life. Because why? Money is not the only thing. It is not the most important thing all the time. But how is it? How is your family? If I was to ask you on a scale of 10, how is it? How is your marriage? How is your marriage? When's the last time you went on a date? When is the last time you courted her? When is the last time you lifted him up? When is the last time you had this level of communication that made him feel like he's 10 feet tall and bulletproof? Just like I felt right before I came on this Zoom right here, my secret weapon. You say, well, you're talking about marriage, you're talking about relationships. I came here for money. Until I understood that and I got that part right, and I can tell you right now, it hadn't always been roses. It wasn't always roses. Yeah, throughout that period of time, and when I made the quantum leap, I made the quantum leap to money. But one of the things that I didn't understand is that I was on that pathway to millions, and in that direction of millions, because I was so focused on the millions that I left the message of my marriage up for grabs. And here where my wife was suffering in silence, and here I was going for the millions, and my wife here contemplating divorce, and I did not even know it, didn't even recognize it. If somebody would have told me that she was actually thinking about leaving HB, it would have been the biggest surprise to me. Why? Because I didn't have that type of connection, didn't understand it, didn't understand how to have what I call that balance. And what I mean by balance is not that I've got to give everything equal time. But sometimes it's like spinning plates, you know. And every single plate, you don't have to spin it the same amount of time. And some plates, all you got to do is go over there and tap it. Some plates, you got to go over there and tap it a little bit more. And then you're going to have some plates, you got to spend a little bit more time with it. But I didn't even understand how to put things in perspective so that they can have equitable time from me. Didn't understand it. We're going to talk about that. We're going to teach you that so that you understand how to quantum leap in every area of your life. And I'm not here to say that I know it all, but I can tell you right now, I've experienced a whole bunch of it. can tell you when the next phase of my life actually took off, and that was when I started to understand HB wasn't right about everything, and there was some messaging and some connection and some communication that I didn't understand that I needed to learn so that I could have that lady be my champion as she has been now for over 33 years that we've actually been married. We've been together since I was 13 and she was 12. 40 years that we've been together. And I got on this call here, just like when I get on every single Zoom. It doesn't matter if it's 2 people that's going to be on that Zoom. It doesn't matter whether it's 2,000 people that's going to be on the Zoom. There's some messaging that I get from either a message or from a hug or from a kiss or from some certain words that I actually get. And it's always, no matter what it is, whether we had an argument, what I call high volume, low CV conversations, it doesn't matter what takes place, but when it's lights, camera, action time, there is one thing that I can stand on, and it is the commitment, support, and love of the ladies. And some of you right now, that doesn't even matter. And some of you, it's not important. And some of you right now, you're single. And some of you right now, you're maybe you're in the midst of even thinking about a divorce. But I can tell you right now, that's how I can come on and do what it is that I do. No matter what is taking place in life, I can always revert back there and say, here's the foundation, and here's what I'm going to stand on. But I'm talking about those 4 components that we're actually going to address as well as the body. We talked about the body. We talked about the being. Balance. And then the last one is the business. How's your business? What's your money blueprint look like? What's your money like, and what's your money blueprint look like right now? Many of you right now, I know some of you who are on this Zoom right now, money is not just pouring in the way that you want it to be. And guess what? Many of you on here, because I know there's a few people that's on here that I know specifically who told me that they're on here, who were so excited to be a part of this. One of them who's, not a multi, but he's a billionaire. Excited, fired up to get on here and learn how to go from where he is to the next level. Money's not his issue, but I can tell you there's some other things that he actually wants to do so he can multiply his money. But how's your money right now? Let's get naked. Let's get transparent. Let's stop all of the what I call the social media truth that we tell. That little 1 insta-second of a perfect image that we actually highlight to people, going out there in the rented cars and going out there in planes that don't belong to us. Where we've only taken 1 plane, but we actually fly private every single week. The lies that we tell to ourselves to make people think that we're much more than where we are. And I can tell you right now, quantum leap will not take place until there's a universal place that you reach, and that universal place is called the universal truth. Because see, what I was doing is I was stacking the lie on top of lie on top of lie on top of lie on top of lie, the gimmick on top of gimmick on top of gimmick on top of gimmick on top of gimmick, and I was stacking all of these gimmicks, and I had to remember this gimmick here so that I could perform this gimmick, and I had to remember this line here to say, yeah, I did this, and this was way back, and I was wondering why wasn't the success lasting? Why wasn't I building the true relationships that I really wanted to build? Why? Because here's the thing I can tell you: when the absence of truth is there, you're disconnected from the power. If you ever want to have the quantum leap, you need to have enough power to be able to springboard from where you are to where you want to go, and it takes and it requires power. I didn't know any of this stuff. I was sitting there, as I told you, in the unconscious, incompetent. And then what happened is this: I started to learn a few things. I started to get some exposure because I wasn't exposed. The only thing I was exposed to is the thing that was the seed for me that was planted in that dream, and that was looking at the lifestyles of the rich and famous. I'm so grateful for it. Because once I got exposure, I started the process of learning. And when I started the process of learning, that was when I went from unconscious to incompetent. And I went to the next phase. I went to the next phase, and that was when I started to recognize unconscious incompetence was why I was broke. And the next phase that I actually went to was when I became what I call consciously incompetent. I was consciously incompetent. I knew that I didn't know. When I knew that I didn't know, that started the process of learning. And many of you are on this call right now, you're on this webinar. Why? You're consciously incompetent. You're sitting there right now and you know for a fact that you have a facade when you get around your friends. When you get around all of them, what it is the competition of who's going to be the fakest. If this makes some sense, let me see some fires in the chat. Let me see some fire emojis in the chat. If what I'm talking about is real, and if we can get behind the mask and we can throw away all the scripts that you've been taught to come to the table with, because I know I was taught the script. I was taught to bring those scripts as well. I was taught to learn the tricks of the trade instead of master the trade itself. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I am telling you, if you want to have the true freedom of quantum leaping, it's not going to become because you learn the tricks of the trade. It's going to be because you master the trade itself. You're going to have to learn how to master the trade itself. But when I became consciously incompetent, that opened up the door for learning. And when I started the process of learning, I realized that there were actually 3 stages of learning. There were 3 different models of learning that I actually went through. And I'll talk to you about these 3 stages of learning. There's 3 stages of learning that I went through. When I started the process of learning, I had no idea there were some things that I could actually learn these processes. And the first thing that I went through, the first stage of knowledge that I started learning was what I call activity knowledge. Or, I'm sorry, I call it learn knowledge. Learn knowledge. Learn knowledge is the same type of knowledge you're getting right now. Is when you're sitting right now in front of somebody and you've got somebody who's a teacher, somebody who's an expert who's actually going to train you on whatever it is that you don't know that you need to know. And learn knowledge is that first level of knowledge. It is not the most important, but it is the first level of knowledge in order for you to be able to take that quantum leap. There are some basic skill sets that we must learn to get to the next level. Learn knowledge. Being a sponge, being able to sit in the classroom and allow a mentor, a coach, or somebody to pour information and wisdom into you. It's the notes that you're taking. It's the recordings that you have right now. It's being in the student seat for a while. And I can tell you, as much as I love to train, I also love to be in the student seat. Learn knowledge. The second type of knowledge that we have is what I call activity knowledge. And activity knowledge is something that's important as well. Why? Because see, this webinar here is not about just being in the seat. There's so many people right now that are what I call educated broke people. How many of us know some of those people? Put a fire in the chat. If you know some people who know everything, they can rehearse, they can regurgitate, they can go and explain every single thing, but they can't rub 2 nickels together. And I got tired of being that guy who knew it all but didn't have it all. I wanted to be able to have something to go along with my knowledge. And activity knowledge, ladies and gentlemen, is where I started to learn more. That's where I started to earn more in activity knowledge. That means that as soon as I start to learn something, what you're going to learn from this webinar here, I want you to take the information from this webinar and put it into action right away. There's going to be some text messages that you should be sending. There's going to be some conversations that you should be able to have with some people right now, right after this webinar. The things that I'm going to equip you with and give you also an opportunity to go on a path with me for 12 solid weeks, to go on a path of transformation. And I'm going to show you in 12 weeks the things that it took me sometimes almost 12 years to learn, because I was still in that first state of what I call unconscious incompetence. Didn't even know that I didn't know that I need to learn. But it wasn't until I got to stage 2, which was unconscious incompetence, was when I started to pour in all of this information and this knowledge. And once I started to pour in the information and knowledge, here's what I started to learn. I started to learn my income started to be impacted. My income started to be impacted. But when I got to the third one, which is modeling knowledge, modeling knowledge. Modeling knowledge is when you actually have somebody who's a mentor. Modeling knowledge is when you have somebody that you watch, that you study for a period of time, somebody that you can focus in on, learn their habits, learn their philosophies, and learn their practices. As a matter of fact, sometimes even in modeling knowledge, what you will find is that people pick up your mannerisms. Many of the students that I have that many of you know of who become millionaires and multimillionaires, sometimes you can't notice the difference if they're talking or if I'm talking. I've watched myself model myself after other people. I'll never forget, 19 years old, and here I was. I'm on my way to becoming this transformative HB. Why? Here's the broke HB who was very young. I'm 18, 19 years of age. I'm working at Astro World. I'm working at a theme park. And I was waiting tables. And I never forget, I had a gentleman, his name was Michael Brown. Michael Brown lived in Austin, Texas. And when Michael Brown, I'll never forget, this guy started making a six-figure income, and he was just a few years older than myself. And I never forget, every time I had a chance to listen to Michael Brown talk, I would actually go. And I would drive, no matter where it was, I would drive. Why did I go hear Michael Brown? Because there were some other lies that I had been told that I didn't know, that I'm going to share with you how to unleash. I had been told I'm too black. I had never seen a guy in my profession at that time of network marketing. I had never seen a black guy actually make the type of money that I wanted to make. And when I found one, it didn't matter where they were. I would go all over the world because I didn't understand that there were principles that govern the law of how to become wealthy. It wasn't the color that governed the law of how to become rich. And I'll never forget, Mike Brown would come to an event, and Mike Brown wore suspenders, and Mike Brown wore long sleeve shirts with cufflinks, and he wore these eyeglasses that had these certain rims on them. And when he talked, and I listened to his cadence, and I start talking like Mike Brown. Why? Because I'm modeling after somebody that I knew, and I wasn't intentionally doing it. It was subconscious, just his cadence and everything, because I'm focusing and I'm paying attention to somebody who had my answer versus modeling the people who have my problem. Where did I go? I went right over here in Houston, Texas, right there on Harwin and Gessner. Many of you know where I'm talking about. I went to Harwin and Gessner. You know what's right there on Harwin and Gessner? There's an apartment complex on one corner, and I used to live in that apartment complex called Coral Club. And right next to the apartment complex, there's a gas station on one side, and I used to go to that section because, wow, they had the cheapest gas, and I would pump that 87 octane and put that 87 octane in my car. It was the cheapest gas that they had, and I lived the life off of the minimum. Let me find the cheapest so that I can survive, and that's where I was, and I was comfortable there. And right across, there was another corner store across the corner from the gas station, and I would go over there every now and then to play my one little lottery ticket whenever the Powerball came out. Why? Because that was one of the thought processes that I had at that time was, you know what, I'm going to spend me at least $1 a week, and maybe I'll hit the lottery. I didn't understand that the lottery numbers had already been chosen. The lottery numbers were already inside of me. I didn't even know it. Didn't know how to unlock those lottery numbers. Why? I never read my instruction manual. I did not read the instruction manual. I did not go search for the combination to the key that would unlock riches, wealth, success, happiness from all four categories that I've been talking to you about. I didn't understand how to do that. And I'm leaving one corner off. There's four corners, obviously, at a stop sign. And the store that was right across from me, that was called the Goodwill. And that was where I would go and I would buy my cufflinks. That's where I would go and buy my handcuff shirt. And that's where I would go to buy my suspenders. And I would only go on Sundays. Why? Because shirts were $1 per shirt, but Sundays you got 50% off. That's where I was. I was so broke that $1 for somebody who bought a custom-made shirt at that time that was $125. See, rich people are the ones who was giving their stuff to the Goodwill. That's why I went to the Goodwill to buy the good quality stuff. I at least had that amount of stuff. And I went over there and I would actually go buy those shirts, and I would actually go buy the suspenders, and I would go out. And when I went out building my business, I looked like Michael Brown. I talked like Michael Brown. I had Michael Brown down. And I thought, because Michael Brown had black skin just like mine, that was going to be the key. And for 7 long years, I never made more than $500 a month in that business. 7 long years. 3 times I made $500 was the maximum income that I actually earned in 7 long years. But here's the thing of why I can sit to you right now. Why did we have the number of people register for this event? It's not because of all the millions of dollars that I've made. It's not because of the homes and the cars and all of the stuff that I have right now. It's because for 7 years, 7 years. You know what I did? I averaged $70 a month over the 7 years that I was involved in that business. $70 a month. And I don't know, maybe the lucky sevens, and I'm thinking about this right now, maybe the lucky sevens are there. Here's why I say that. 7 years, I averaged $70 a month. And here's what I did. I never forget, at the end of the 7 years, I told us, because we did our taxes, how much money did I invest and book, take events, travel for events and functions and stuff like that. It was $70,000 was my investment. The sevens were at work for me. And I'm just thinking about it right now as I'm actually relaying this. Never even thought about it like that. $70,000. You say, HB, for somebody who only, I average $70 a month. 70. That was my average earnings for 7 years. But I put $70,000. I never made a profit in 7 years. That's why people are on this Zoom right here. Because I didn't learn the shortcut. I didn't have the, you know what, I'm fresh out of high school, fresh out of college. The next thing you know, Jack out of the box. The next thing you know, I'm up here at millionaire status. I had to do it the tough way. I had to grind. I had to earn. I had to go out there and learn. And when I was doing that modeling knowledge, things were starting to work for me. What was working for me? At least I had a cadence. At least I had a vision. Modeling knowledge is very important because you actually become like the people you associate with the most. Why is this so important right here? Ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing I'll tell you right now. Three stages of learning. Activity knowledge, learn knowledge, and modeling knowledge. See, when you hear something, you'll forget it. When you see something, you'll remember it. But it's not until you begin to do it that you'll begin to understand it. You hear something, you'll forget it. You see something, you'll remember it. But it's not until you begin to do it. When you start to do the thing, that's when the power came. And that's when my power actually started. Consciously incompetent. What I started to realize is I started to move to those next levels. I started to move to those next levels of being unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent. Then next thing you know, because I got this knowledge, I moved to the third stage, and that was consciously competent. I knew what to do. And when I knew what to do, that is where I had some energy. That is where I had the punch. That is where the power was. Why? Because I was the information. See, many people will actually go take a webinar like this and take that information from a webinar. And what they'll do is they'll go write down the notes, and then they'll just go repeat it, and they'll try to go teach it and sell it in the course without having the power. Why I didn't come with fancy slides and stuff like that. I told them to put a few of these slides together, but no, I'm coming from the heart. Ain't no script, I'm not reading the script. I don't have a teleprompter here. Why? You can wake me up in the middle of the night and ask me about any of this stuff, and I can repeat it just like this. Why? Because I've lived it, and that's where I want you to get. I want you to get from that point where all of this information is in you. Why? Because we're going to teach you how to understand and study that guide that you have. That guide that you have that you didn't know where to find it, you didn't know where to look, you didn't know where the information from was. That operations manual that operates how you survive, how you thrive, how you think, how you act, every aspect of who you are. Conscious competence. And when I move from conscious competence, that is where the magic starts to take place. That is when I start to have a little bit of movement. Because that was when I knew. Before I didn't even know. I knew I didn't know, but then I moved to a place where I knew I knew. And ladies and gentlemen, there's a fourth place. There's a fourth place that I actually entered. And I'm speaking to you from that place right now. I'm out of this place. It's called the unconscious competence. See, at the unconscious competence, ladies and gentlemen, this is the place that I want to focus on right now. This is the place that I actually take people who are going through a transformation. When I get them to understanding the unconscious competence. See, unconscious competence is something that you're already born with. This is your potential. This is where the quantum leap happens. This is that place. This is the place where you tap into the conscious, and that quantum leap starts to actually process, and it starts to develop. It happens right here. So there's some things that I had to do. You say that old Holton that I was telling you about and all of those authority figures that I had in my life. And here's the thing that I did. Here's what I didn't know. And here's what happened to me. Here's what happened. I started to realize that throughout my life, what I did is I gave my power away. I didn't know it. Why? Because nobody taught me how to regain my power. I was taught by our school system, and I was taught by all of these authority figures that we all have in our lives who shared with me information that was absolutely the opposite of what it was for me to be a productive element of society and actually develop successes and wealth in my life from all four perspectives that I talked to you about. I didn't know. I didn't know that our school system was not designed to help me. I thought going to school was going to be the key. That's why when my son graduated from high school, I didn't pressure him to go to college. Why? Because I did not want him to go and have to unlearn all of the bullshit that they were actually teaching me about how to become successful. And I did not have one of my professors who actually had the success that I desired. Son, whatever it is that you want to do, go off and do it. He said he wanted to go do music, so go out and do it. And I'll never forget, after we graduated, here it is, me and his mom, we're actually going to go to his graduation. We're actually going to go, get dressed and go celebrate his graduation from his school. He actually went out to LA, went to Los Angeles School of Recording, and he was fine. He wanted to be a musician. Wanted to be an artist. Wanted to be a music producer, a writer, and he did. He became that. And here we are, we done gone shopping and all of this stuff and bought outfits. We actually even bought him outfits for the meeting after the meeting, if you know what I mean. So after the ceremony, we're going to go celebrate, and we're going to fly to LA to go celebrate. This is a momentous occasion. Why? Because what are the things that my mom taught me, son? If you go and get an education, that's something that nobody can ever take away from you. And as I thought about it, once I became consciously competent, Mom, why would anybody want to take my education? I don't know about you. How many of you ever had your house broken into, or maybe your car broken into, or maybe your wallet broken into, and they rummaged around because they were looking for your diploma? Anybody. If it's happened to you that somebody came into your house and all they want to do is go where your credentials are, or maybe you, if you're a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it is, you're a professional, and they break into your place of business and they don't want the computers, they don't want the money, all they want is your education, please put a fire in the chat. See, that's the next step, and I'm going to tell you how my mom gave me some great stuff, but she didn't understand money, and so I developed her money blueprint, thinking that people wanted my education, and I put that thing on my son a little bit, and we're going to go celebrate his education. I'll never forget when we say, son, here's your outfit. He says, why, what is this outfit for? I said, son, it's for your graduation. He says, what do you mean? We said, your graduation's next week. He said, why are y'all going? We said, to come celebrate you. He says, I'm not even going. He said, Dad, the only reason I went to college is because I wanted you to continue paying my rent. Because you told me if I'm not in school, I won't, you're not going to pay my rent. He says, everything I learned there, I already knew it. I went to school just for that reason alone. And here we are, I'm reverting back because I hadn't finished that process, and I'm never finishing the process, but I hadn't gone through enough of the process of breaking away from the things and the chains of the mental chains that my mom and my family put on me, telling me how important it was for me to go to college and get a degree. And here I am right now, and I still don't have a degree. I went through college, I went 5 years, and I went through my graduation ceremony because here I am, I'm ready to go ahead and graduate. Why? Because Mom wanted me to graduate. And I'd gone to school for engineering. And I get to graduation, and I'll never forget going through the ceremony. When we had the rehearsal, they pulled about 5 to 10 students away and said, hey, listen, guys, we have a little challenge for some of you who are in engineering. They said that there were 2 classes that was not available over the last 5 years, but for some reason this summer, those classes are going to be available. And what we're going to do is we're going to let you guys walk and go through the rehearsal and go through the motions, but we can't give you your diploma because you'll have to go back to summer school this year, and you'll have to take those 2 classes, and we'll release the diploma to you. And it was just, it's somebody like I'm running the 100-meter dash, and when I get to the 100 meters, somebody actually extend it out and make it 120 meters. And oh, how disappointed I was. Why? Because here I was going to do something to make mama proud. Why? Because it had been put in my mind, I got to graduate, I have to get a degree. That's what I thought I had to do. I thought I had to get that degree. And I went to class, and I'll never forget, I'm now working with other people. I've got Michael Brown in my head now because I'm seeing him, and here I am. I'm a college student as well, but I got Michael Brown in my head, and I had some of my other mentors in my head as well. I had Dexter Yeager, I had Bill Britt, I had John Crow, I had Paul Miller, I had Larry Winters, I had some of these other people that were influential measures in my life that I had a chance to actually work with and work close to. I had Charles Prince in my ear. I had Marshall Johnson in my ear. I had all of those guys. I had, these guys I had in my ear. And I went back to school, and I went to class for about 2 weeks, and I decided, man, I don't want this bullshit. What am I going to do with this degree? Because what I did is I went and looked at the people who were engineers, and I looked forward, and I said, you know what? Let me find the people who are actually engineers. And I never forget when I worked as an intern, and I saw the people who were engineers, and here I was, a sophomore in college, when I had an internship. But because I got involved in sales and during my internship, I started making money, developing my skill set that I talked to you about. 5 o'clock comes and we go out, and I'll never forget 1,300 people working at this facility in Nashville, in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I was working. And at 5 o'clock, we go out, and here I was. I was the intern. 1,300 people, all of these people with all of these degrees, more degrees than the thermometer in here. And I'm walking out, getting into a car just as nice as anybody there. And I'm like, why in the hell would I want to go and devote the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life to live like that? That didn't happen on Lifestyles of Richer Things. And so I went to school for 2 weeks, and I sat in the back of the class, and I'm listening to a guy who was probably making at that time about $50,000, $60,000 a year. And here I had dreams of making millions, and this guy teaching me about how to take this stupid class so I can go and line up and put a resume together. You know what a resume is? A bunch of lies that didn't work the first time. So that I can go and put all of these lies on a piece of paper and shop myself off to the highest bidder. Because I didn't understand the value of me. Because nobody in school, nobody in any college that I went to, and I went to a college that was a public college, and tens of thousands of dollars that was actually paid for me to go to school, and they never taught me how to unleash my own power. And guess what we'll do? And many of you right now, you're sending your kids, and what you're doing is lining them up for failure. Now, here's the thing. You want to be a professional, you want to be an attorney, you want to be a doctor, you want to be a lawyer, you want to be an accountant, you want to be an engineer. Yeah, you got to take your ass to school. And it's okay to go to school for that. But most of you right now can't break the chains of what you learned from your parents and from your grandparents. You can't break these generational curses that's keeping your family from actually developing wealth. I decided I was going to be the first millionaire buzz in my family, and I did it. Because I broke those curses and I broke those chains. And I'll never forget leaving there. And I left that school that day, and the professor asked me where I was going, and I left the books right there. I left them right on the table, right at my desk. And I knew I would never go back. I'll never forget when I made my first $1 million, my mom was still telling me, she said, son, you can still go back and get that. You can still go back and get it. That's something you can never take away. And she just didn't understand. And here's how I broke away, and here's how I reclaimed my freedom. Here is how HB became free. And I want you to stay with me for a second. I've got a few things that I want to teach you, and I want to share with you where we're going to be able to go. Where you have the opportunity to go with HB as I embark on journey number 2. Now, journey number 1, I have not abandoned. I want you to understand that there's room for more than one plate of food on my plate when you've done and accomplished what I've accomplished. So I want to show you guys, and I want to be able to take you on a journey with me, and I want to talk to you about that journey. One of the things that I learned is this here. I learned that when we're young, when we're kids, here's what happens to us, and I didn't even understand it. Nobody's told me until I was 40, or maybe 42 years of age, over 10 years ago, and I'll never forget this. Maybe I was 40, 42, whatever it was. And I can remember the date. I can remember specifically when I became free. How did HB declare its own freedom? I remember when I became free. We were in Nassau, Bahamas. We had an event in Nassau, Bahamas, and I had people who had accomplished a whole lot of stuff in my company that we rewarded them, and we brought them to Nassau, Bahamas. And I'd always been, at that time, I had started searching for two critical things, asking myself two questions. Number one, when? And the second question I started asking myself is what? I'm sorry, what and why? Not when, but what and why? What is this really all about? What is this thing called life really all about? I've got the money. But there were still some things missing. Why am I here? Why am I created? When I started asking myself those questions, I started to be able to unleash. I start to free myself. If many of you remember when I first started on social media before they hijacked my page and took it maybe 4 years ago, and I took about a 3-year hiatus from posting on social media. Why? Because I wanted to live in truth. I wanted to live in transparency. And my life was never going to be a social media life. And I'm not here putting you down, and hopefully you're making money with your social media. I'm not here putting you down, but I am here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that there's a life beyond what you post. There's a life beyond what you post. And here's what I started to learn. I started to learn that I was assigned a board of directors. See, when I was just a couple months old, 6 weeks old, I'll never forget, or actually I do forget it because I didn't remember it when I was just a couple months old. But when I asked my mom and I go through, here's how I saw her have my other two brothers when she went back to work. I'll never forget, my mom actually passed me off to a lady named Shirley. Shirley was my babysitter. And Shirley was one of the first board of directors that came into my life. And here I was. Here's me. Here's little Lacey. And many of us have board of directors that's been chosen for us. Who was my first one? Mom? Dad? Who were some other ones? Pastor? Who were some of the other ones? Yeah. Teacher? Professor? Neighbor? Uncles? Family? And here I am. I am actually the chairman of the board of the corporation called HB Incorporated. I'm the chairman of the board, but somebody else chose all of these board members for me. I didn't even have a choice. And this is the reason why I was actually enslaved to the authority figures and their belief systems and all the isms that they had and the thought processes that they had. Many of you know what I'm talking about. My mom would always tell me things like, son, money doesn't grow on what? Trees. Many of you can answer. You actually can complete the sentences that I'll tell you. This lets you know some of the strongholds that we have on ourselves, that we've got to break these shackles so that we can actually move forward, so that quantum leap actually becomes a possibility in our lives. Money don't grow on trees. Well, where does it grow? Grew up with that thought process. It's easier for a rich man to get into heaven than, for a camel to go through an eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. How many of you heard that before? It's Sunday right now. I know I have a lot of our religious and spiritual people who have learned everything, and your mom and dad quoted the Bible to you. I'm telling you, I had to break away from the shackles of all of those isms that I had. Sounds too good to be true. All rich people are going where? To hell. So why in the world would I want to be one of these rich people? If mom says all the rich people are going to hell, why did mom say all the rich people are going to hell? And the reason being is because she was taught that the reason that she was poor is because rich people were rich. And all of that stuff was passed on to me. It's a genetic code that you're not born with, but it's a genetic code that actually happens post-birth. And what happens is mom and dad and all of these people here these became my board of directors. And here I am in the middle. I'm trying to run a corporation called HB Incorporated. I am trying to go out there and become successful. I'm going out there and trying to become and get this lifestyles of the rich and famous. And here are the, Advisors. Some of you got to get rid of the ors. How many ors do you have in your life that aren't working for you? What's an or? An or, just look at the words of it. Look at the ending of the word. The or are the authority figures in your life that have influence. Advisor, professor, pastor, neighbor. All of those things had influence in my life, and I didn't know, and I thought it was normal. Why? Because if you grow up with other broke people, it becomes normal. And all you want to do is a little bit above broke. You want to be the cream of the crop, or what I call the cream of the crop, right there in the middle. You never set the goal for all the way up. You just want it to be a little bit better than them. And so here I was. I've got a board of advisors that have been elected. And here's the thing. Most of you who are listening to my voice right now, and one of the reasons that you have not hit it is because you're still carrying that board of advisors with you. You are still employing them week after week after week, month after month after month after month. You cut a check for them in ways that you don't even know, and you keep them employed. And I didn't know that I had actually employed them. And here's the thing, what I've learned, that you can actually love them, but you don't have to employ them. One of the companies that I started was a university that was called OG University, and I had all my family members working for me. They're probably watching right now, yes. And I learned I had to fire their asses. I love them, but I had to fire them. Why? Because they were not working at that time in agreement and in congruency with what my philosophies were. And so here's what I want to do. Before I get into the next part of this here so we can finish this up, here's what I want to do. I want you to take right now, we're going to take about 1 minute. I want you to take out a clean sheet of paper if you have one, or take out your phone. Here's what we're going to do. We're about to hand out some damn pink slips right now. We're about to hand out some pink slips, and some of you who are around the world, if you don't know what a pink slip is, it is a slip that you actually get when the boss comes and say, hey, listen, you're no longer employed. You no longer have authority in this building. See, I live in a gated community here, a triple gated community, and here's the thing I can tell you. See, when you don't pay your dues, the code changes and you no longer have access. One of the things I teach people when we go on this journey is how to have what I call limited access. Limited association and limited access. My mom, I know right now she's not watching. I love her and I love her dearly, but you know what? We got a 7-minute time limit when it comes to telephone access. Why? Because I don't want to hear about who died. I don't want to hear about who's got cancer. I don't want to hear about, who's not doing good and who broke their leg and who did all of this, whatever it is. I love my mom to life, but I know I'm going to get a dose of who didn't know, and not going to happen. 7 minutes is the time limit. And when I start saying I love you, Mom, she knows it's time to wrap up. Why? Because my mom was on this list here, and I gave my mom the pink slip. Do I love her? Yes. But I had to give her a pink slip. And I want you right now, I want you looking at your board of directors right now. This is the first stage. If you want to go on this journey with me, you can't go on this journey with the same people who cause the problems that are in your life right now. See, that HB that I had, the mental capacity and the mental awareness of the HB who had this board of directors, that HB, I had to kill them off. That HB had to be reborn. That HB had to transform into a completely new and different person. Have to transform. They have to learn some new information. Let's fire them. Who are your board of directors right now? Who's there directing? Your director. Director. Another or. Who is it? Is it your spouse? Some of you may have to fire your spouse if you've got a negative one. I was talking to a buddy of mine and he was telling me, man, listen, it would be much easier if I could, for me to become successful if I had a supportive spouse. I'm not telling you to leave her, but you got to mentally disconnect. If you can't make that connection work so she understands, it is your job to go out there and provide first, but you can't stay back there. Why? See, I remember I was not going to let my wife keep me from becoming successful. Why? Because she used to bank with me. She was just as broke as I was. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't take any advice or ideas or concepts you have, but it was up to me. Why? Because see, you are counting on me. Those of you who I haven't even had a chance to meet yet, but I will have a chance to meet, we'll have a chance to work together. We'll have the chance to go through the transformation together. We're not just going to give you the information and drop you off and leave you hanging. We're going to go and transform together. But I can tell you at some point in time, you're going to say, thank you for not listening to your mom. Thank you for not listening to your wife when she didn't understand the vision. We were sitting yesterday at brunch yesterday. It's my job to be the leader. It's not for her to understand everything that I dream and think about right away. It's not. It's my job to explain it to her until she gets it. I told her about the second phase of our life and told her, hey, listen, honey, here's where we've been. But the second phase of our life is about impact. The first one is accumulation. The second part of our life is about impact. If I can't impact the lives of people from those four categories, I will not do it. And I laid out some things about of what we were going to do. And I laid out 5 different methodologies of how we're getting to the $1 billion mark. I laid them out and told her, hey, listen, I want you to look at this right now. We've got this particular strategy, this strategy here. In less than 3 years, this is $100 million, not collectively. This is $100 million per year. And she didn't understand it. She said, well, hey, when you told me before, I didn't understand it. And it sounded like a lot of information, but what was my job? My job was to continue to repeat it over and over and over. And we sat there at lunch, and I gave her the information. What did we do? She got it. And she took the information that I gave her, she rewrote it, she put it in a little sticky note, shared note, and she modified it and modified it and modified it and went through this and went through that and went through that. And now, guess what? Guess who's the biggest cheerleader about that $100 million a year plan? But what if I had listened when we disagreed? When it was time for me to march on, when it was time for me to do what, and she was never negative. But what if I had taken her position? Remember, she wasn't the one who was submerging herself in personal development. I was the one. She wasn't the one who was going to bed with a pillow speaker, making sure that I was programming my mind so that I could have that constantly 8 hours a day or 8 to 12 hours a day. I had something in my ear. So when I was sleeping, I was also working. It wasn't her, it was me. I didn't need her to do it. Why? I was doing it. We've always had this philosophy, there's not a need to have 2 Michael Jordans on the same field. I needed her to be Scotty. I needed her to be my sister. And that's what she's done. She's been able to do that. Some of you are going to have to file your pastors. I know I probably got a couple of my pastor friends listening right now. And you know what? That's right. It's just the truth. Why? Because we're teaching from old information. We're teaching from information. When I say old information, I am not here criticizing what your beliefs is. I'm not here criticizing what your thought process is. What I am criticizing here is that many of you have the same information passed on from your broke pastor, whose pastor was broke, and you think that just because you're reading from the book of the Bible that is actually going to transform you into wealth. No, you're going to have a new download of new information and get real connected information so that you truly understand the source code of how you were born into the divine information that actually resides inside of you right now, and learn how to unlock and unleash it. I'm telling you, I found that code. And I was sitting around thinking that, okay, if I'm operating this principle here, and I'm wondering, okay, well, why is it that it's not working in this life? And why is it, and then the next thing you know, that the only person's life it was working for was him. I have a problem with that. And what I wanted to see them do, and now that I understand it, go make it work in your life outside of the parishioners, and then come and teach how to become successful. Other than that, teach people how to have balance in their life. Teach people how to have balance in their family. Teach people how to have a better being. But stay out of the business world and leave that for people like myself and some of the other people. Because you haven't done it in your life other than the time. And I'm not going to go down that tangent, because you know me, guys. I just speak from the heart, and I keep it real. HB's not here telling you need to quit your church. I'm not telling you any of that stuff. What I'm telling you is that there's information that is incomplete. And see, the gap of the information, that is where success or failure takes place. That gap is where the opportunity is. And if you don't open up the gap and understand and identify the gap, you can't leap from where you are down here in the pit up to the peak. There is no leap if you don't understand the gap. The gap represents the opportunity. When I started to understand this, and many of you right now, hopefully you've made a list of people that you fired. Now, here's the thing I want you to do. I want you to take out a brand new sheet of paper. And what I want you to do is I want you to get rid of the ones that you fired. And I want you to make sure that you're hiring right now. And so you're going to put here, I've got HB Inc. right here again, and I'm hiring. And some of the people I don't have, I've got positions to fill. One of the positions that you need to fill that I talked about is the name called mentor. Mentor. Who is your mentor? That's another or. Mentor. I've had the pleasure of mentoring several of you here from afar, some of you close up. But who is your mentor? Remember I talked about the 4 M's, money. Where's your money at? If your money's not good, you're going to have to understand the mentor process, mindset, having a new mindset. These people that I had over here were the people who contributed to the mindset that I had that actually produced the failures in my life. They were good people. I am not blaming them. I am a grown individual, and the information was there. I just didn't understand why I was in that state of what I call unconscious. In that state of unconscious, I didn't have it. And once I start to understand and get into that state of what I call the unconscious competence, that's when I understood I had to go ahead and redo this. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that in my unconscious competence, this is what I mean by unconscious, the subconscious. It's below the conscious. It's the part that operates 70% of the time. 70% of the time. People always want to know why they're broke or why they're not giving on their goals. See, I can tell you right now, 70% of the conversations that you've had in your life are between you and you. You have talked yourself out of every $1 million idea that's out there. You have talked yourself out of it, just like I did. My question for you is this: how many lies or what lies are you standing on that you've been telling yourself about why you can't succeed? And here's what I can tell you right now, ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do when we go on this journey is we're going to break some frames. And frames are how you actually see the world, the picture frame. What lens do you see it through? The mindset, setting of the mind, mentor. What did I say the or was? Or was the authority figure. What does ment mean? The authority figure over your mind. Ment, mind, mentor. Who is your mentor? Not whose phone number you know, who is it, whose social media that you know, who is it that you actually look at their posts and see all the nice things that they say. Who is the person that actually you are connected to, that you have some level of proximity, whether that is in a small group setting, whether that is in a one-on-one setting. Who is that person who's able to Bluetooth their information from their head, the experiences that they've had in their life that have produced the results in their life that you're looking for? Who is that person who's been able to Bluetooth it over to you? Sad to say that many of you on this call right here, what you have is fans. You're a fan and you've got stars, people that you admire, and at least that's the truth. And we go from being a fan and having our superstars to having somebody who's a coach. And the coach is good, but that's not deep enough. You can't transform with the coach. People say I'm a transformation coach. I don't believe in transformation coaches. I can't coach anybody to transform. Mentor. You've got to be mentored. You've got to submit and release authority of your mind over to someone else who has results that you will And here's what I've learned about mentorship, and I'll say this here. For so many years, I mentored people all over the world. I coach the masses, I mentor the people, and I've been able to watch transformation take place. I still witness it right now to this day, and mentorship is not about the person doing the same thing that you're doing. Mentorship is not about the person who's in your business. I can think of a gentleman right now that I can just think of, a guy named Reese Collins. Reese Collins, I'll never forget, I met Reese Collins in 2016. I was looking at our text message today, a text message that he sent me today, and I love getting these text messages from people that I'm mentoring. I was over there, Lifetime Fitness Gym, and I'm working out, pumping iron, and next thing you know, here's a guy who needed a spot, and I went over to him, and I just spotted him. I saw him lifting some heavy weight, and I'm like, I don't know if this weight came in this time. And he's a pretty nice fit guy, pretty big guy, and I go over there and I spot him, and after the spot, he was very appreciative. I'm about to leave the gym. He says, hey man, listen, seems to be a pretty cool guy, whatever it is. Thank you for spotting me. My name's Reese, blah, blah, blah. And I introduce myself. Typically when I'm out, during those times, I sometimes like to be to myself. I don't like to be lights, camera, action until I was on my way of, coming up. I didn't want to be lights, camera, action, so I didn't introduce myself. He introduced himself, and I never forget, he asked me for my phone number. I went to the gym the next time and I saw him again. He says, man, dude, I actually had the chance to see your car there, and I looked you up, and man, you've done some amazing things. I'd love to take you to lunch or dinner or something like that. Whatever it is that I can pay you, I'll do it. We'll go over and I'll do it. We had a workout session together. We went to have lunch, and I never forget, Reese was making $20,000 a month at that time. He was a programmer with a particular company, and he had a programming language, and I think it was SAP that he would actually did. He was one of only few people in the world who did what he did. He was making $20,000 a month, and he was frustrated. And he sat there and he told me about all of his frustrations that he had. He knows for a fact that he should be making more money. And I looked at him and I said, Reese, here's the thing. You're never going to get paid what the job position is worth. You're only going to increase your income when you increase your self-worth. And he didn't understand what I meant. And Reese and I developed a friendship, and we developed a mentorship, and we developed a mentorship before we developed a friendship. And I mentored Reese, and I shared with Reese concepts and ideas, and I recommended books and things of that nature. And Reese always wanted to pay me. I never accepted payment because, I know this stuff. People pass it on to me. I paid for it. $70,000 is what I paid for my first 7 years of knowledge. But here I am. I'm going to pay it forward. I'm going to give this stuff to Reese for free. And Reese would take that information, and here's what a good mentor or a good student would do. They take the information, just like we talked about the 3 levels of knowledge: the activity knowledge, learn knowledge, activity, and then the modeling knowledge. And he modeled the knowledge, and he went out there and did it. And Reese would come back. Never forget, Reese came back and said, hey man, listen, I'm having the best week I've ever had. It was probably about 3 months later, Reese had $60,000. And if I picked up the phone and called Reese right now, there's nothing that he could be doing right now that he would not stop and answer the phone and say, sir, hey, listen, when you call, I always answer the call because of how you impacted my life. I didn't do the work for Reese. I actually shared some things with Reese so that he would understand the journey of transformation, so he could unlock that code, so he could be his owner instead of being an owner to the company. Reese just sent me a message. He sent me a message maybe about 4 years ago, and Reese went from $20,000 a month to $60,000 a month. And I never forget when Reese, he said that, hey man, listen, I want a car just like yours. I want to get me a Lamborghini. I want the Aventador. And he says, there's only one caveat. Could you come with me when I earn the money to buy it? I want you to come there. You got to be with me. So I never forget, Reese got his first Lamborghini. And I was right there with him. And he was so fired up and he was excited. Simply because we just unleashed and unlocked the code to what was already inside of him that he didn't know how to get it. Story continues. Next year, they came up with a new Lamborghini, the truck, and Reese said, I want this one too. Now Reese's income is way over 6 figures a month. And he says, hey, listen, I won't ever buy a Lamborghini unless you with me. And every time he buys a Lamborghini, he buys me a gift. He buys me a set of the Lamborghini champagne. And I've collected 5 of them and about to collect 2 more because Reese just ordered the Lamborghini Revolto. And another Lamborghini car that he's getting. He says, HB, here's what we got to do. This one, I want to go and take you to Italy so we can pick it up. Why am I telling you this? Because Reese, when I met him, was at $20,000 a month. And just because I gave him some information and invested time as a mentor, not as a friend, not as a transformation coach, but as a mentor. Reese just sent me a message I'll never forget. He said, Bugs, I had my first $1 million. Reese has never done a network marketing organization. Reese and I have never done business together. But what I've done is just share the information in a format that I learned how to actually share it with and have that close proximity and that direct connection as a mentor. And that's what happened. But that's one of the phases that you're going to have to get to. You're going to have to get to that phase of a mentor. Who's your mentor? Who are you around? What's your circle look like? Are you still running with that same circle that didn't work? I can give you story after 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 story. Daniel Camaro is just one that comes to mind right now. I remember 18 years of age when I first met him. He's 18 years of age. And I see this guy, big guy, out of shape. I don't know how much he weighed back then. It's probably 250, 260. Could have been less, could have been more. I don't know. One of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. But he was so humble, so submissive to information. This guy was hungry. This guy wanted it. And there's nothing better than have a mentor to want it just as much for the mentee as the mentee want it for themselves. And I remember Daniel Camaro, and he never complained, but I knew for a fact that I knew how much money he was making. And I knew how much he wasn't making. And I would watch him serve his way to be in the room, and he became my translator as I went across the world to Spanish-speaking audiences. And here was the epitome of somebody who had modeling knowledge. And I would see him on stage right next to me. There's photos that we have. If I'm taking a drink, he was taking a drink. If I kicked my shoes off on stage and I had one shoe on, he had one shoe on. And everything that I taught him, he was actually going to do it. And I remember him going through the phases of disappointment and wanting it so bad and just being humble. And whatever you tell him to do, he would actually do it. And I saw him go from that phase of not having enough to barely having enough to having a little bit to setting himself free to now being $1 million. Here's what's so cool. The $1 million he's earning is with my knowledge and not in my business. That's what's powerful. That's powerful. That's strong. Person after person after person after person. Another guy, Stanley Atwater. And I'm just calling names that I know of right now, right off the top of my head of people that I've had a chance to work with. Stanley Atwater, people know him as City Under Siege. City Under Siege right now lives in LA. And I remember when I started a record label, here I was, started a record label for one reason. Number one, I had the money and I wanted to protect my son's mind from the record industry. My son Trey wanted to be a musician and he wanted to go out there and be a rapper and singer and do all of this stuff. And here I was. I surrounded him with the best of the best. And I said, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. And he had a mentor first who lived right here in Houston. Billy Cook was his music mentor. And we set him up to go out to Atlanta, and he worked with the best of the best of the best in Atlanta. And I said, I am starting my own record label because nobody is going to come and take advantage of my son. And so here he was. We put it together. And there was this young kid, I'll never forget, came to the studio. And that young kid came to the studio. When I say kid, he's a little younger than me, but he came to the studio. He was hungry. And everything that he could do to make sure that my son was doing good, he did it. And I didn't know who he was. Nobody was panning. He was not on my payroll. But every time I needed something, he'd turn around and say, Mr. Buggs, I can take care of that. I can take care of that. I can take care of that. Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do that? And he served his way into mentorship. I actually ended up hiring this guy. He became the manager of my label. And he took my son from where he was, and I'll never forget my son's first song because, working with this guy and this guy being so connected in the music industry, but he was hungry. My son had a top 25 song. That's not the story that I want to talk about. What Stanley Atwater, or City Under Siege, is what he goes by. City Under Siege took the information, and every single month he calls me with a mentoring question that we're talking about. And he and his wife actually started two companies. He started a music label called Run It Up Records. And Run It Up Records today, ladies and gentlemen, is the #1 independent record label run by independent artists today. Because some of the information that I shared with him about who he was and what was inside of him, and that he already has what the record labels want. So why are you going to take this talent and go give it over to the record labels when you already possess it? You got it already. You've already got it. And he took that information, and I can show you the messages right now. When he calls me, and the next thing you know, his wife started a company called Curl Days. And I shared with them, they had an offer that was put on the table. I'm saying, hey, listen, you're worth more than that. Don't you sell out for that. Remember what I told you, how you broke the code and what they did. You took the code, and if you go look right now on all the shelves around in Walgreens and Walmarts and these retail centers that have to do with hair care, you'll see a product called Curl Days. And it's now a multi-million-dollar brand because of the mentorship. The word mentor, meant, mind, or authority, ship. A ship should be taking you places. How are your ships doing? How is your mentorship? Where is it taking you? How is your friendship? Where is that taking you? All of the ships that you have should be putting you in a direction of where it is that you want to go. But what I want you to do is I want you to complete this path right here of filling in these vacancies. And maybe you don't fill them all in today. Maybe all of these vacancies don't get filled in today, and that's fine. But on this journey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure that we complete this journey right here, because this journey has to be filled. You're not going to be able to get there by yourself. I can tell you that right now. You're not going to be able to get there by yourself. Say, well, what part of this journey am I going to learn? What's some of the things that we'll learn on this journey? There's a lot of stuff that we're going to learn on this journey, ladies and gentlemen. And I can't roll all of it out to you, but one of the things I can tell you is this, is that I'm going to teach you, number one, how to create and how to extract the power yourself. You're going to have to identify, number one, from the starting point, you're going to have to identify the very first. If you want to actually be the one, you're going to have to claim it, and you're going to have to understand the statement of I am the one. I am the one. If you're the one, put a 1 in the chat right now. If you're claiming that you are the one, you've got the power, you are the one who can operate from that place of universal truth of who you are ready to unleash and unlock all the principles and the code that you've been designed with for greatness. You were actually born with the seed of greatness. You were designed for success. I truly believe it, but most of us haven't learned how to unlock that key. Many of you know that one of my favorite books that I've read, most people ask me about the book that I read the most, that I've gotten the most from, it's called The Master Key to Riches. The Master Key to Riches. Master Key. It's the Master Key. The Master Key opens up many doors. I'm not just going to share with you how to transform with the key, just the wealth. That's the single key. Not just the key to having a good relationship. That's the single key. I'm going to take the principles that I've learned and even discovered a little bit more deeper and show you the master key. The master key. As we go on that journey for 12 weeks. But you've got to claim that you are the one. I am the one. I claim that I was the one. I never forget some of the stacks that I was telling myself. I was stacking the lies on top of lies on top of lies. And those lies were nothing more than excuses. And I never forget me saying to myself that one of the lies that I actually started buying into was, hey, listen, I don't know if anybody's going to come to my Zoom if I actually start my second phase of life. And that is impacting the lives of people in those 4 different areas. Why? Because people who are in my so-called, profession, They've got this scarcity mindset that, you know what, my people can't learn from somebody who has a different company name. And I bought that lie and thought that, you know what, most people are actually going to buy that lie as well. And here we are. And look at the number of people that showed up. We had a major event that I did last week, and it was a sold-out event, and we didn't advertise it. It was a whisper campaign. I sent out a couple text messages, told a couple of people about it, and the next thing you know, we had to turn away 72, however many people we turned away. But what I had to do is I had to break that frame of how I saw my next phase of life. My first phase of life was building and mentoring the people in the industry that I was actually in, and that was the industry of sales and network marketing. But one of the things that I realized is that my impact could only be so big in that particular industry. Now, here's what I want to tell you. For those of you who are in sales, for those of you who are in network marketing, for those of you who are in retail, for those of you who are in real estate, for those of you who are influencers, for those of you who build businesses, for those of you who own this line because maybe your parent, your mother, your sister, your dad, your uncle, whatever that is, I want to share this with you. And specifically those of you who are in network marketing, I'll never abandon where that comes from. Why? Because I'm the best at it. I don't know of anybody who knows how to put it together like HB knows how to put it together. And there's nobody who has a resume that is as deep and as wide as the one that I have with people who've actually transformed the community. I didn't do the work, but they did it themselves. All I did was create an environment in order for them to be able to understand that soul that was already inside of them. And I will always find a way to make sure I do what I have to do in that industry. But my next step, I tell you this, is much bigger than the industry of networking. the impact that HV is going to have. This is no longer just the little rock that's in the lake that has the ripple effect. No, what we're doing is we're dropping boulders in the ocean. We are dropping boulders in the ocean. Do you know why we're dropping boulders in the ocean? Because I'm the one. I'm that leader. I'm the leader that you've been looking for. That's why you're on here right now. And all I'm going to share with you is how you can become that leader as well. And when you become that leader and you start to become the one, here's what happens. Now you're able to take people to point number 2. And point number 2 is what I call the promised land. That's the promised land. What's the promised land? The promised land is those dreams, goals, desires that they actually have. It's the promised land. Many of you right now have made promises to yourself. And how many of you have ever been to a point where you felt like reducing your promise? How many of you have ever been to a point where you felt like the promise wasn't even worth it? I've been there. I had things take place in my life where figuring out, well, I don't need such a big house. I don't need that. I don't need a car. I don't need that. I don't need to have this amount of money in the bank. I don't need to have this, that, and the other. Why? Because that gap between where me making that decision of where I am and the promised land, this is where the opportunity was, but this also is where fear was. That fear was there. And I didn't understand that fear. And what we're going to have to do is get you over here to the third place. And what's that third place? That third place is what I call the universal truth. The universal truth. And when I say universal truth, it is universal. I didn't understand this universal truth. I didn't understand those principles. And now I got them and I can teach people how to actually unlock those universal truths. But first, you got to start with number 1. You got to start with I am the one. I am the one. If you haven't put it in the chat again. Type it. I am the one. Put it out there in the universe first. Put it out there in the universe. I am the one. And no matter how big you are, no matter how small of a leader you are, you're going to have to declare that you are the one. What will we embark on this journey? We're going to embark several different things in this journey. Here's when I start to understand where some of this power was. Where was this universal truth coming from? There was 4 planes of it. There was 4 what I call the 4 planes of existence. I didn't understand it. I'll show it to you right now just a little bit, but I'm going to show you how to tap into it. All of these universal truths that I've actually learned and how these universal truths just transformed my life when I start to understand that I was not what they told me that I was. I was not what the teachers told me I was. I was not what the pastor told me I was. I was not what my mom told me that I was. They loved me. They wanted the best for me. But the universal truth is when I started to unleash my power. And I am more than fired up to share these universal truths with other people as well. And I'll start from the bottom part of the 4 planes of existence of how we exist. And how when we start to elevate, how we can actually move from one plane to the other plane. I'm telling you, here is where you actually tap into that quantum leap. And I'm going to show you how to extract all of the information and all of the energy out of these 4 planes. And you'll start to understand that you'll be able to break these frames, see the world from a completely different place. Right now, you're seeing it from here. I'm going to show you what it looks like from here because there is a different elevation when you go through this gap and you hop from here over to there. That's when the transformation takes place. But the physical plane. Where's the physical plane? The physical plane is where we all operate. This is the plane where we use our touch, our feel, our sight, and all of these things right now. You're looking at me right now, and you can see the book. You can see these books up here. You can see my little Elmo up here. You can see who's behind me. Why do I have them behind me? Some of you probably already made judgments of who he's got behind me, what their belief systems are. These are people that years ago and still to this day who have built models of a business, and they're the best at what they've done, and I modeled and I love the excellence in which they operated. I always wanted to make sure when I was in my office or in wherever it was that I keep heroes around me, and I've got other ones that are not even posted, and I rotate them at different times. But guess who's the most important hero that I have? I'm gonna show you who's one of the most important heroes. I'll get up and I'll pull him over there. This is one of the most important heroes that I have. Because when I started to understand who that guy was, I used to be afraid of that guy. I used to look at that guy and look in the mirror and I used to turn my face. Why? Because I couldn't look him in the eye. Why? I wasn't operating in number 3, the universal truth. When I learned how to operate in universal truth, I can look at that guy and I fell in love with this guy right here. And until I fell in love with this guy right here, my wife didn't have a chance of having the purity of the love that I have for her. But it was when I fell in love with this guy right here. He's one of my champions too. And every now and then I feel like to hang out with the billionaires. And it wasn't just about the billionaires. These guys didn't become billionaires because they needed the money. These guys became billionaires because they operated in their universal truth. They chose that they were the one. They said to themselves, I am the one. And what they did is that they were able to impact the world and take people with them to the promised land. And they operated from the spirit of universal truth, which is number 3. And that's what we're going to be able to do. 12 weeks, 12 weeks is really not enough. It's taken many of you 40 years to get all messed up and screwed up the way you are right now. It took me so many years to get screwed up. 12 weeks is just the starting point. It's just the starting point. But that starting point, ladies and gentlemen, is so important. It's very important. But the physical plane. What is the physical plane? What does that consist of? That consists of all of what you see here, and I'm going to show you how to reverse it, because when you start to understand the universal truth, and when we start from the top, which I'm going from the bottom now to the top, but when you start at the top, which is where you were when you came into this world, and what happened is you got taught the reverse order of what was important. We started at the physical, what we see, what we touch, what we smell, and what we say. Everything that surrounds you. This glass right here, this is the physical component. This glass does exist. It exists in the physical plane, but there's another plane that we have that's right above that. And so each plane that's at the bottom is actually nothing more than a connection to another plane. And that plane of existence is a certain level of consciousness that we actually have that we can tap into. And when you tap into that consciousness, I'm telling you, that's where the power comes from. Some of you have different names from it. Some of you say, well, it's God. Okay, call it God. I believe that it is God. I believe that God is in each and every one of us. That's just my thought process. I'm being transparent. I don't believe he's in the sky. I don't believe he's somewhere around here hiding around. Why in the world? How many of you, if you had children, how many of you would hide from your kids? How many of you would hide away from your kids and play hide and seek from your kids for 70, 75, 80 years? That's some of the stuff that I was taught, but he's up there in the sky and he's looking down on you and all of this kind of stuff. And I appreciated it, but you know what? All they did was repeat things that they didn't know enough of. Why? Because many of them didn't do the work to do the discovery of finding out the exact truth, the universal truth of who they were, how they operated. The next plane is called the ethereal plane. In the ethereal plane, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually the go-between. The ethereal plane is basically that connection between the physical plane and the next plane that I'll talk about, which is that astral plane. And that ethereal plane is what we call the common sense plane. Yeah, I know I read somebody says that's deep. Yeah, I'm not trying to get deep. I'm just trying to be transparent with you, trying to be vulnerable with you, so that you really understand how I found my keys. I was operating on all of these scripts, the scripts that this board of advisors gave me. They gave you a script just like they gave you a script. And as soon as I took that script and tore the script up and said, hey, listen, I no longer operate by this operating system. These rules do not apply to me anymore. And until I was able to rip up the script and fire those people and get rid of their asses and hire some new ones, put some qualified people in there, that's when things changed for me. But that ethereal plane, it's the ether that we talk about. It's the thoughts of things. It's the part if you ever read the book from Napoleon Hill called The Law of Success, which is the unabridged version of Napoleon Hill, he talks about ether, thoughts or things. It's the connectivity of energy that we have. That's the magnetic components of our universe that we actually have. It is the magnetic and it's the energetic of what we have. And I know some of this may be a little over your head. Don't worry about it right now. Take the journey with me and start to discover some stuff that you don't know of. See, here's the thing. If I'm telling you that you're going to take a journey with me and you're not going to be uncomfortable, don't take the damn journey. Why? Because you're not going to learn anything. It should make you a little bit uncomfortable. It should ruffle your feathers. Because most of us have been conditioned with all of the information that we have received, where from news, TV, television, from entertainers, from Hollywood. They've given us all of this information. Why? To make us stupid. Here we are right now. We live in a land. We live in a land today where we have more access to information than we've ever had before. There's not a thing that you can want to learn, that you have the desire to learn, that you can't actually take a little mobile phone and cue in something and have somebody explain it to you. Well, if that is the case, if we have access to more information, why in the hell are our kids dumber today than before the internet? They have access to knowledge. But if you've got more access to the wrong stuff, that doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you smarter. And what I had to do is I had to start that process. I couldn't unlearn things. People say unlearn it. You can't unlearn. Once the body and the mind has actually taken some information in, you can't unlearn it. What I had to do is I had to oversaturate it. I had to put in some more input, some more information. When I started accessing this new information, that was when I started to become free. I told you guys, when I started my social media, there was one hashtag that I had. If you guys remember, some of you who followed me way back in the day, there used to be number one was welcome to a bug's life, and my second hashtag was hashtag freedom. And most people thought that I was talking about money. I had money. I had more money than I could actually use. Money was not my block. Money was not my issue. My issue was that I was a slave to incorrect information. I was a slave to information that people had shared with me, and I didn't understand that information was keeping me from operating in my full potential. And once I started to understand it, I used to put hashtag freedom. It was my declaration. I didn't go out on social media, make posts and tell everybody. It was just my truth. It was my truth. But operating in that second plane is called the ethereal plane. The third plane is what I call the astral. I'm not getting deep into it now, but when we go on this 12-week course, and even in beyond, for some of you, there's going to be an opportunity for you to work with me and beyond. When we get into that astral plane. And that astral plane, ladies and gentlemen, is when you're able to now think through things, and you're able to utilize the imagination. You start utilizing that imagination, and that imagination, that's where you're now able to start to make more money. There's three levels of that astral plane. We got the lower astral, we've got the middle astral, and then we've got that higher. I'm going to take you through that and show you how to actually extract all the information from the astral plane, and show you how astral projection is what we can do, and you can actually control it, and you can actually harvest it, and you can actually harvest that information and that energy. When I talk about energy, that magnetism and that energy, and you can convert it into its physical equivalent. I'm telling you, I've extracted the science, and I understand the step-by-step procedure of how I've actually done it. Here I am, the kid, born in the projects, had no special skills. Tell people the reason I didn't write my first book is because I'm a slow reader. I didn't write my own book because I figured if I start reading my book, it'll take me 6 months to complete my own book. And it was another one of the lies that I stacked on top of the other lies about who I was, how I operated. I start to break these frames, and when I start to break these frames, that's when fulfillment and purpose actually start happening in my life. And I want to wrap this up here. But those different planes on the astral plane, ladies and gentlemen, is a whole different level. It's a whole different level on that astral plane. And then you go to the next plane. That's where everything starts. That mental plane is where imagination takes place. That mental plane is where the consciousness is. That mental plane is a level of energy so that you can so that there's a frequency that we all have. And you're wondering right now why you're not where you want to be, because you actually assimilate your history with people who have no frequency. And what they do is they tune into your particular frequency. And when they tune into your frequency, whatever it is that they have is what you're going to have. You're going to ask yourself, how is the radio station? You've got to change the station. That station is the actual frequency. And you're going to emit a particular frequency out from a radio station. And if you tune into that particular vibration, to that wavelength, you connect and you actually get the music. See, there's a radio station out there called Astral Success, fulfillment, prosperity, and transformation. And most of you extremely important. So you don't know those of you right now who are here, we've been here for a couple of hours right now. See, you're the ones I'm talking to, because what I'm talking about is not for the faint at heart. The path that we're going to take you down for 12 weeks is not a path for the easy. It's not a path for the ones who quit real easy. As I told you, when I start mentoring, what I start to understand is I've mentored many people. And many of the people that I've mentored along the way were people that I mentored along the way. And those who paid the biggest price were those who actually did the most. I spoke to a group the other day and I said, hey, listen, you know what? There are people that you have that are close to your mentor that you'll mentor for free. And when I say for free, it's that there's no money in it, but there's a different price that they actually pay. But I stopped the free mentorship. Why? Because I realized that I was showing up, giving my all and giving my best, and everybody wants to be mentored until it's time to be mentored. Everybody wants to mentor until the mentor shows up. I shared a story the other day about my son and how the mentor worked with him. I never forget, my son was actually going off to college, and the only thing I wanted from him was I wanted him to be a productive element of society. I wanted him to be whatever it was that he wanted to be, whether it was a musician or whatever it was. If he was living in a one-bedroom or a 50 apartment, and as long as he had his instrument, he felt like he was making the world a little bit better. And when I saw him, he smiled and said, "Dad, you know what? I had one more person listen to a song today, and that person loved it." See, that's good enough for me. He didn't have to follow my perception of it. All I wanted. My goal is to make sure that I duplicate people who can have an impact as well. And mentoring him for free, it didn't work in the beginning. And I'll never forget having that time of me saying, man, I go all over the world and people recognize HP all over the world. There's not a country that I haven't been to, an airport that I haven't been to, where people had walked up to me and say, are you that guy? Are you that guy? Are you that guy? Are you that guy? And here I was in my own household, because I learned my son, I had to actually learn how to parent between the ages of 18 and 22 more than I parented between the ages of 4 and 12. Here we were, I'll never forget, we're over here at Houston, Michigan, and I'm talking to him about making sure we can be a productive element in society. Why? Because a leader, a real mentor, we have this innate thing that's inside of us, just like this animalistic nature that we want to reproduce. We're looking for somebody who wants to do it. That's who we are. Here I am, I'm wanting to give him this information, but he had to learn it. He sat there in Texas restaurant, we're going back and forth, never disrespectful. I could see the intensity in his mom, and she gets very uncomfortable when we butt heads. We're too round. We are two warriors. He is a freaking beast. And we were butting heads, and we left home, and I could say she was quiet the entire ride home. I got on the phone and I made 2 phone calls to my mentors. Made phone calls to my mentors, and when I talked to one of them, they was telling me exactly what it was that I needed to do and how I needed to solve that issue. I didn't understand. And they took me through a point of how to make sure connection. There were 6 different things that they taught me that we're going to teach you, and I'll give you the names of them. 6 different steps that they actually taught me. And it works in anything that you do. It works everywhere that you are. It works no matter what business you're in, no matter how you actually operate, no matter your family, all of that stuff, it works the same. And I start using those particular skill sets on them, and the next thing you know, our connection became better. No more butting heads. No more arguments. I never forget, he was at my event last week, and he looked at me and he said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you. You know what that meant for me." For my son to look me at me, we're riding in the car, and then to text me, "Dad, I love you so much, and I'm so proud of you." It's worth every no that I took. It's worth every dollar that I invested. It's worth every disappointment that I had to overcome. It's worth every objection. For him to look at his dad, because all I wanted to do was be that example. And I'm watching him now follow those steps. we'll teach you that. There were 6 things that they taught me. And the 6 things that they taught me here that we're going to go through and we'll teach you as well. And I'm going to speed it up here a little bit. And number 1, they taught me how to communicate. He says, hey, listen, there's a certain level of communication that you're going to need. You're going to have to learn how to communicate the message the right way. How to communicate a message. And see, sometimes what we're doing, ladies and gentlemen, is that sometimes what we're doing is we're talking, but we're not connecting. You're going to have to communicate. You're going to have to communicate a message. And what you're going to have to do after that, you're going to have to capture permission. I had to speak to that inner self of his that gave me permission to have the authority. There's a special skill set of how to communicate to a person where you capture permission. Many of you right now, you continue selling to people, selling, whereas they have already negated your permission. Your permission is denied, and they don't want to hear from you anymore. But you continue to sell, and that's why what you're doing is you're actually making the sell, and what's happening, they're having buyer's remorse. We're going to teach you how not to happen. You're going to have to learn how to convert the mindset. I'm going to teach you how to convert the mindset. Start with communicating the message, capture permission. Then you're going to have to learn how to convert the mindset. And there's an art form of how to be able to take a person who's got a particular frame of how they actually see the world, and how he saw the world was the way he saw the world. And I have to remember, this guy is 25, 26 years old, younger than me. He doesn't see the world the way I see the world, and I have to communicate in the frame so that I can break the frame that he has and actually associate. He had to give me permission to come in and break his frame and then give him a whole new way to look at it. And the next thing you know, his mindset was converted. And once we converted his mindset, then I had to do is I had to compel a particular action from him. Compel an action. We're going to show you how to compel an action. I had to get him to move in the direction of the frame that I actually created. There's nothing good about having a mindset that you don't take action on. And once I compel the mindset, what I had to do is I had to consolidate his commitment. Consolidate the commitment. I had to seal the deal. I don't call it closing. Most people call it closing. I call it opening. I had to open up a new idea, open up a new relationship, open up a new possibilities. Don't close it. I don't want to close it off. Close means it's done. It's done. It's forgotten about. I opened it up. I seal the deal by opening up new opportunities. That's why I call it consolidated commitment. And in business, I had to do the last thing, and this is what I call it. I start collecting cash. What is collecting cash? Collecting cash is the promised land. Made it to the promised land. Show them how to do it. I can take these 6 things right here, and I can take 1 week on each one of these, ladies and gentlemen, and I can actually show you how to transform your entire life just by the art of doing these right here, these things right here. It's the art of seduction. It's not the art of selling. This is why I told the group yesterday, I am great at sales. Do you know why I'm great at sales? Because I don't sell. I am great at S-A-L-E-S because I don't S-E-L-L. I communicate that there's a need. Some of you out there, you know that you got a need. Some of you out there, you know that you need what it is that I have. And because you know that you need what I have, what's going to happen is there's going to be exchange that takes place in a minute when I give you an offer. That's right. Yeah, we're going to give you an offer. And there's going to be an exchange. Many of you right now, some of you already made the decision, no matter what it is HP's talking about, I'm in. Put it in the chat right now. Give me a fire emoji. Those of you who are saying, hey, listen, I don't care what he's selling, I'm in. Let me know who you are right now. In the chat, put the fire emoji in there if you're already in, regardless of what it is. Make the commitment. See, what happens is you got to throw your heart over the bar first. That's your commitment. Throw your commitment first and let the details come a little bit afterwards. That's what people ask the guy who actually has the high jump record. He broke the high jump, and he broke the high jump, and the high jump, he jumped up about 1.5 foot higher, taller than what he was. And people ask him, hey, listen, you're not the tallest guy out here. You're not the fastest guy out here. You're not the strongest guy over here. But how in the world did you out-jump everybody and jump and break a world record? And he said, here's what I do. I threw my commitment over the bar first, and then my body followed. I threw my commitment over the bar first, and then my body followed. And how do you spell commitment? Anybody know how you spell commitment? Here's how you spell commitment in business. C-A-S-H. That's how you spell commitment. Cash. I threw my $70,000 of commitment over the bar first for 7 years to earn and have what I have today. The commitment came first. But we'll show you this. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing I want to share with you. I think right now I can go here, and I've got so much more that I want to share with you on this right here, but this is just a free webinar. Not just a free webinar, but I want to respect your time. And I want, right now, there's a lot for you to ponder. Right now, some of you are right now thinking, okay, what in the world is the offer going to be? And you're probably shaking in your boots, wondering what the price is going to be. Let me ask you a question. No price is too great to pay for the privilege of owning your own self. And I learned how to unlock the master key. And take it to open up areas in my life where I can do and purpose. I do it all over again. I pay double if I can get there faster. I pay triple if I can zoom in, get all the experiences I do. But there's a point in your life where you gotta get off the nail. And right now, some of you are sitting on the nail, just like I was at some point in my life, sitting on the nail. At some point, you gotta leap forward, and you gotta make sure that you take massive action. Some of you are hurting right now, and I can tell you some of you are hurting while I've gone through pain myself. I never forget how it felt to be 45 days away from foreclosure. I knew how it felt when I was behind on my dreams, setting goals, and I never forget when I first set my goal to hit these levels and these levels, and I fail, and I fail, and I fail, and I fail, and I fail. These were only experiences of failure, but I never quit, and that's why I have never failed at anything that I set out to do. But an old Holton I had to bury, and there was a new Holton, there was a new HP that I had to bring to this. This is just the first of many. I'm just making a promise to you. I'm just keeping it real. This is the first of many different experiences that we're going to have. And my second wave of what I'm actually going to be doing with my life in my second wave. Very seldom does a person have the opportunity to start a journey with someone who already has the answer. You have that ability. You have that ability to say, you know what, I was there when they did that. It's in the history book. There will never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever be another first one. You've got the opportunity to take your handprint, take your footprint, and cement it right there and be remembered. Not just for being there, but for being transformed. Being transformed. And ladies and gentlemen, the thing that I want you to understand about transformation is that transformation is not soft. There's a forging process that takes place as you actually go through the transformation process. And that forging is just like steel. When you take steel, and what you have to do is have to take it from one form and you have to melt it. That molten steel just starts to melt and it goes down to a completely different form. And then what happens is that you have to forge that steel and you create a whole new shape and you become, and that's just like that steel, you become a whole new element. When you become a whole new element, you don't look the same as you looked before. That process ain't easy. It's not. So the beginning forging process that I did last week with a gentleman who was at my event named Daywan. And Daywan stood up there in the middle of the training and had no idea what he was about to experience. He shared some ideas about where he was, and I took it deeper. He just thought that he was going to make a comment, and I didn't let him stop at that comment. And I went deeper and 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 deeper until we got to that place of universal truth. Because most of us want to stay on the surface. Most of us want to show us how good it is and how great it is. But that's not what I'm going to do. And that wasn't David. And when I finished with him after about 20 minutes of standing up there and the tears that run down his eyes, the transformation that I pictured in his life, I can tell you right now, I haven't talked to him, but I can tell you he's completely different than he was last week. I know for a fact what the next 6 months in his life looks like because he was transparent and vulnerable, and he got to that universal position of truth and allowed to impart me impact of the information. It's not me. I am not the great one. I am just the person who says, hey, I know where the keys are. I've got the master key, and I want to make you a set. I want to make you a set of these master keys. And he took the master keys. And all the results haven't shown up yet in over a week, but I can tell you his life is completely different. And yours can be as well. Ladies and gentlemen, what we're going to do is this here. We're going to put together, we've put it together already, a process. And we're going to start it in December. A 12-week quantum leap program. The first that I've ever done. 90 days, the Quantum Leap program, 12 weeks of intensive transformation mentoring. We're going to start the first week of December. You're going to have all the practical applications of concepts that you learned today and more. And today I just went over a few things, but I can tell you right now, I've got stacks and stacks and stacks of information that I've collected myself, that I have put together myself, and I've learned from people all over the world. Here's the thing I want to tell you. I didn't create any of this information. My ego is not attached to saying, hey, listen, here's what HP created. I want to share with you over my last number of years. All I have done is take information and open up my antennas, and I've learned how to tune into that higher vibration and understand the God that's within me and understand how I was created, that I took it for granted, didn't even know that I had this power, that you actually have this same exact power that most people don't want you to recognize. And I took that information and I did something with it. And many of the things that we're gonna teach you, that we're gonna teach you how to, how in terms of speaking, how to communicate the proper. We're gonna talk to you about the seductive art of selling, as I told you about. I have learned now how to get all the things that I want. Why? Because people don't want to be sold what everybody wants to be. Took my wife to dinner the other day, and it wasn't a regular dinner. Here's what I did. Sent her a message. It wasn't just a regular message of an invitation. And I'm going to read it to you. Because this was that art of seduction. And as I pick up this phone right now and look at her message, and still I got another message right now. Another message from her that's just off the charts. Okay. And here's what I said to her. Hey, beautiful, I have the pleasure of treating you to dinner tonight. You're the most appetizing part of the menu, so I want you looking absolutely sexy. Our reservation is currently at 6:15, but I'm working to move it to 7 p.m. I will update you if this time ever changes. Let's plan for a timely departure. I'd love for your sexiness to be ready at 30 minutes prior before our reservation, so that you can take photos and have your escort to the car. Can't wait to treat you. I love you. Now, I could have just asked her for dinner and she would have said, yes, she's my wife, she's going to go. But no, what did I want? I wanted to take it to the next level. And see, you think it's just about sales. I seduced my son to start listening to me by being able to understand the artful skill of words and being able to do it. The same thing I've done with people in business with me. And here it was. First of all, she gave a heart, just acknowledging the information. She gave a heart. And the second thing that she did is she wrote back. She says, OMG, I just saw this. I'm all smiles and I'm all so excited. I will be ready on time. She says, this is me screaming, thank you for this. See, that ain't just some dinner. What impact are you making? Or are you just reading the script? Or are you just going through the motions in life? And that's why your results are the way. How you do anything is how you do everything. And that's what you got to learn. How you do anything is how you do everything. In 12-week course, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing I want to share with you. I'm not going to go here and give you all of this stack and tell you about all of these great things and try to make it sound like it's so great, and then we bring it back down to all of this to the low price. And I'm not going to do the gimmicks. Here's what I can tell you. There's two prices that you'll pay for this training, but I'll give you some bonuses here that we'll talk about. The first price that you'll pay is the price of admission, and with that, you're going to get a ticket. Okay. And with that ticket, there's some other things that you'll have. I'm going to give some people some incentives for the first few people to sign up once we go ahead and put it all out there. But we're going to go through 12 complete weeks. You're going to have online coaching from myself. You're going to have an environment in the community that you'll actually be able to be a part of. And I can tell you, just the environment is worth it alone. That was the question that I had on this social media post, is how many of you have been able to be in the room and sit and talk to people about making $1 million, and how can you make $1 million if you won't even discuss the topic of it? And I can tell you, the people who are already going to be in that room, they want to discuss the topic of it. Some of you made comments, I don't have that circle. That's why you need to be in this event. That's why you need to be here. But there's a price that you're going to pay for that event. The second price that you'll pay is for those of you who choose not to come. Now, what I want you to ask yourself is, which price do you think is going to be the most expensive? Which price do you think is going to pay the most dividends? Which one is going to, as we say, put you out the most? And I'm not going to sit here and give you this long story and this long close of this, to this seminar here. I just want to appeal to your heart and appeal to your senses, because I know where you are. And I know how it feels when you're sitting there and you're wondering, should I do it? Should I not do it? And is this the right timing? It's never the right time to transform. Never. There's never been a convenient time to make a right decision. Here's the thing I want to tell you. Most people are always flim-flamming between, am I making the right decision or the wrong decision? I don't ever make the right decision or the wrong decision. Here's what I want you to understand. Make a decision and then make it right. Make a decision and then make it right. We told you, those of you who stay at the end, we're going to give you the Wealth Starter Guide. And all of you who are here at the end, we're going to go ahead and put that in the chat so that everybody have access to that Wealth Starter Guide. If we don't put it in the chat now, we'll make it available to you. Okay? We'll make it available to you shortly. But 12 weeks, we're going to get started. We're going to get started in December, actually starting the second week of December, that we'll actually get started. Okay? And we're going to go 12 solid weeks. 12 solid weeks. What is it? What is the value of it? Look at it right there. That's the price right there. What's the value? That's up to you. What's the price of your transformation? What's the benefit? What's the reality? And before we leave, here's what I want to do. I want you to just think through it for a moment. I want you to close your eyes for a second. I want you to think about what you've been feeling. I want you to think about the emotions that you've been feeling as I've been talking. I've taken you to different places, and I've probably spoken to most of you in different parts of your heart, different parts of your energy, different parts of your mind that I've been speaking to. I've spoken to the promise that you have. I've spoken to promises that you haven't kept. I've spoken to some of your guilt, some of your shame, some of your worry. Not intentionally, but it's just how it works. That's how I've spoken to. And that place of pain that I've spoken to, I want you to imagine that you're at the base of the mountain. And at that base of the mountain, you start to look up. And up in that mountain, you know that the air is a little bit fresher up there. And you know that the wind is nice and brisk up there. And you know up there represents a place called freedom. But there's a climb that has to take place. There's a climb. There's risk taking place from where you are at the base of the mountain just to even get up to the first peak. There's risk of falling. There's risk of failing. There's risk of getting injured. There's risk of hurting yourself. There's risk of not getting there on time. There's risk of running out of food. There's risk of being by yourself. There's risk of being alone. Starting with several people, because some people start the journey with you and everybody don't finish with you. It's called life. Why they design different tiers of success and different tiers of virtues for people, because everybody don't want to go where you want to go. Well, see, today, not next week, today is when you start that journey. But what I want you to know is that you've got a tour guide. Many of you have stood in line and gone to different events, and you go hunting, and you pay more for a hunting tour guide or a fishing tour than you pay for a transformation. I don't want to talk you into this, and I don't want you to, I don't want to trick you into doing something that you don't want to do in your heart. I only want to talk to the yes in you and not the no in you. Every single one of you have a yes in you. And here's what I can tell you. As you're climbing that mountain, as you go up, there's a million and one reasons for you to say, hey, this is why I don't want to climb the mountain. This is why I'm going to stop. Why? Because it's too hard. It's too tough. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have a circle of influence. I don't have a business to apply this to. I didn't talk about having a business to apply this to. I'm talking about you and all of those things are nothing but lies that you're telling yourself, that you've been telling yourself for years, and that's why you have to be here. But there's victory at that promised land. There's something special that's up there. I've made it to that top. And each one of you, some of you are on this call and you don't have the same mission. Some of you've made it to the top, and you know what? It's called peak to peak. Robert Schuller talked about the peak to peak principle. And sometimes you can't see the second peak until you get up there to the first peak. But when you get up to the first peak, guess what happens? You come back down in the pit, and that's how you get back up to the second peak. And it becomes a little higher. And what I want you to do is I want you to speak to that yes in you. I want you to speak to that person who declares victory, that person who has been sitting there in quiet desperation, that person who's just been looking for the right coach and right mentor and the right environment to be in. And you'll look back like I did, and you'll look back and say, hey, how little I paid to have what it is that I have. Or you'll look back and you'll say, how much I paid for not taking a chance on me. For those of you right now who are going to take that leap of faith and you're actually going to be here and be a part of that quantum leap method, you know what? First of all, I want to say welcome home. Welcome to the rest of your life. And for those of you right now who are sitting there saying, you know what, you're still contemplating whether or not success is for you. You're speaking to the knowing you. I want to say thank you for being here and paying attention this entire time. And maybe some other time we'll meet our paths will cross. But for those of you that I spoke to the yesterday, I want you to buckle your seat up. I want you to get yourself ready. I want you to put your mental best on and get ready for a life transformation experience. Each and every one of you, I want you to enjoy your Sunday. This is HB. Welcome to the future of your life. Love you. Bye-bye.
I've been around HB for the last 17 years.